to our, what month are we in? November Board of Education meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Here.
Judy Boucher.
Here.
John Key.
Here.
Scott Latham. Brian Tobin.
Here.
In the event of an emergency, visitors are advised that they may exit this room from the one side door which leads directly into the parking lot. In the event of an emergency, everyone is asked to move away from the building and do not attempt to leave in your automobiles, since this may cause traffic problems and block incoming emergency vehicles.
Thank you, Patty. Our first item is our first hearing of visitors. At this time, we request questions and comments be kept to agenda items only. Does anybody care to address the board at this time? See who they are behind the masks. That brings us to our consent agenda, which is approval of our minutes from our regular meeting of October 28th, our financial matters, which consist of our bills, our treasurer's report, our monthly budget status reports, transfers, extra classroom activity fund, contracts, and CSEs. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Old business. I feel like I missed something, but I didn't. Do we have any old business, Mr. Moore? Dr. Morrow? You know what, because there's no 7. There's 6 is consent agenda and then
No, sorry.
old business. So did I miss something or it's just not numbered right?
Correct.
Okay. So we'll just leave that. Superintendent's report.
So we sent a letter out a couple of weeks ago and opened up a survey for our parents. And we had about 257 responses. There were some duplicates. We did have some people contact us because they believe they hit it twice. So we have to clean it up a little bit. And with the changes in the state about the different micro clusters and zones and preparation for testing and things like that, we haven't had a good deal of time to do that this year. The initial numbers were 68% of the community indicated that they would like their students back in school full-time with the plan that was proposed. 32% would prefer to continue with the models that we are utilizing now. You know, with the increase in numbers and the rise in Suffolk right now, you know, I believe that my proposal would be that we continue planning, but don't move forward with it at this time until after the holiday breaks. I just think it would be, you know, this is a very fluid process, so a plan for 4 weeks ago I think might be ideal, and something may happen and that plan changes. And I believe that for us not to look at what's going on in the world around us, especially in the county around us, and adjust our plans based on it, you know. So that might move us back 3 or 4 weeks in total, you know, calendar-wise 6 or 7 weeks because of holidays, but it may move us back a few weeks in our plan of trying to get more kids in. But I think at this time, with the numbers rising and being as high as, you know, 5 and 6% in some of our surrounding districts and numerous schools being closed, it would be a lot more prudent for us to continue to plan and look at options we have and work towards moving more kids back, you know, when we deem it to be, you know, a safe, reliable option. The fact that our community indicates that that's something they're in favor of, I believe they'd also, you know, I did have a couple emails from parents that said, you know, I'm absolutely in favor of this, but I think we need to keep an eye on what's going on, and you know, I happen to completely agree. So, you know, the responses were great. We you know, we'll continue conversations with all the different stakeholders and continue looking at what our options are and measuring out our rooms and moving furniture out of storage back into rooms because we moved it all out of rooms into storage. You know, so there is a great deal for us to do, and I do think that we're going to move towards trying to bring more kids back into school.
They're talking about after the Christmas break.
After the Christmas break is
What do
I'm
you
talking.
guys think about that? I think that makes.
I think
plan, because I think we'll have more data in the next month.
Yes, listen, I don't know if there's perfect times for any of these things, but there are clearly bad times to do them, and you can tell by what's going on. It wouldn't be prudent or safe to do it during a bad time. So,
Especially college students coming back
Yeah.
that have siblings in school.
yes, there's a lot of variables.
Holidays.
The holidays in general, yeah, makes sense.
So after that, when it's nothing going on in the world, like nobody ever goes anywhere in January, February, and March, then you bring them back.
Look, I think they'll start, I think vaccines will start going out. I think there'll be a lot of changes and a lot of things for us to monitor and a lot of ways where we can hopefully continue to give kids opportunities. We did do, one event, which I'm not going to explain. It'll be explained to you after. But I do think that, I think we can continue planning and continue moving. We're not putting it off. We're just not moving forward with it as quickly as we may have liked to, because the playing surface has changed a little bit, and that's what you get during a pandemic. This is our first pandemic and hopefully our last pandemic. So, it's not, there aren't any real standard answers for what's going to happen. Since we started putting this together 5-6 weeks ago and started researching what other districts are doing and looking at what is permissible under guidelines and what we'd be able to do, things have changed. So, we're going to continue moving forward with trying to get more kids back in. We're just going to alter our timeline and push it back after the holidays, because there are some people that are predicting, and this is a prediction, which sometimes they're true and sometimes they're not, that the numbers are going to be staggering between the Thanksgiving and the Christmas break, and maybe even worse after the December break. So I don't think it would be smart for us to gamble on that. I think it's wiser for us to take it slower and hopefully do it better for our kids.
Anybody want to comment on that? John, you have anything to say, Dan?
No.
That brings us to personnel. We have the superintendent's recommendation. He goes to the end. Would you want to take one now?
No, that's fine. That's fine. I didn't know when you were.
We usually do a board member commentary,
That's great.
but if you want it,
That's good.
you sure?
You want to go at the end? You want to go now?
No, at the end's fine.
Okay, very good.
You sure? Okay. Personnel, a couple personnel things going on here. Employees leaving the district full-time permanent. Joanne Heine will be retiring effective April 15th, 2022. Entering the district part-time permanent, Richard Pisacano for the math AAS position. I believe that's in the elementary school, right?
It is, yes.
And employees entering the district part-time temporary, Francesca Reardon and Joe Clemmy for guidance after-hour duties, and home instruction tutor, Karen Bonaiuto. Is there a motion to?
Quick question, 2022?
That's what I was, the CSEA has to, Patty knows.
Yeah, they have to
Plan
give like
better.
16 months notice.
Because remember
That was my
Karen
question
Kowalski
too.
was saying that.
Right, so that-
We thought it was a mistake with Karen Kowalski because we were told.
CSEA requires 15 months notice, we can require 15 months notice.
Theirs isn't 12 months like the SFA. Theirs is like a year and a half. Is there a motion to, second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Audit committee report. And then I guess you can talk about the independent audit report.
Well, that is what it is. We met, I don't know if the board received the minutes of our meeting.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I don't know if you've received the minutes, but I know you received the reports.
Right.
Okay, so just so you know, we met with the auditors on November 9th, and I just, a lot of reports there. So I'm just going to give you some of the highlights of what the auditing team shared with Brian and I. Just some, pulling some of the numbers out. Our revenues for 2019-20 were over by about $300,000. Our expenditures were under by about 1.5 million. So that's why we had some, and obviously some of that was due to expenditures for COVID. We used $300,000 to fund this year's budget, so we are giving, some of that savings that we experienced back to the community through funding this year's budget with it. In terms of restricted reserves, we have about $9.9 million in restricted reserves, which we use for all the different things that they're allowed to be used for, and that has proven to be a good financial plan for us and will continue to be good for us as we go forward. We're in a good position that way. In terms of our financial statements, we only had 4 journal entries that needed to be addressed, by the auditing team, which if you know anything about journal entries and accounting,
There were 80 to 100.
yeah, it's huge. What that basically says is that Mr. Scheid and his department have basically control over what's going on in there because they are able to make sure everything gets recorded and accounted for where it's supposed to, and only having 4 items, and they're usually, they're like picayune things. So it was just, they're not the kinds of things that you would anticipate would be done anyway by us. They're very typical kinds of transactions. So that's kudos to Mr. Scheid and his team. In terms of the financials, we have an unmodified opinion on the financials, which is basically the highest opinion that they can give us, that they have confidence that our financial statement has been done well and that we have control over that, and there are no surprises or anything for us to be concerned about. There were a couple operational issues that we continue to address with the extra classroom fund. Clubs paying sales tax, they need to do that. So the administration will, speak again with the class advisors and make sure that they're trained appropriately. And the school fund, lunch fund balance, the fund balance is still a little over what it should be in terms of a cap. However, they are, we're slowly going down, and we're in a good position. So that comment, if you will go away. But those are operational issues. They do not affect our financial statements or our financial position. Basically, we are in a really good financial health in our district.
Can I ask you questions? And it is about the procedural things in reading it. It wasn't a citation, but it was their comments about the special aid fund and the receivables. Is there a reason why those outstanding receivables, my concern is that we don't get the money that we're supposed to be getting for programs that we've run?
I will let Mr. Scheid answer that.
And
That's a big,
something to do with forms not being.
It's something that is a little bit long-term, and it's being addressed, and
So
he wants to give you more, but it's a little complex, the issue.
Okay.
the main issue was last year where we had our main program for the summer is a summer school 44-week program. It was not stacked. We had to receive funds. We have to stack those children that are in the program, and we didn't stack them. I think for 9 months. We could have and should have stacked them earlier. So there was no revenue for that 1 year, and they made that comment, and they looked at some other stuff. For this 1920 audit, we stacked them timely, and money was coming in. They just thought there was still some older receivables. The difficulty is that summer program, the money doesn't come in the following year. It comes in chunks when the state has funds. So it looks kind of deceiving that you have some old receivables, but it's typical. I was assured that it's going to come out next year as long as we keep proving that money's coming in, we're stacking them, we showed them everything. So the comment, like I said, I let them keep it in there, like I said, because there's still, I think, some 16, 17 monies that we're still working on receiving. And again, the comment will be out next year, like I said. The issue was really last year.
Okay, that kind of makes sense. Because
The process is secure, is okay.
Well, and then they talked about the federal grants compliance, uniform. Is that just that we need to adopt a policy? I don't want to read the whole thing, quite frankly. It was during the previous audit review, the district's policy to know that the district's current procurement policy did not incorporate the uniform guidance procurement standards.
There needs to be policy looked at.
So maybe we should just put that like on the policy committee.
Right.
If that'll make that one go away. That just looks like it's one of those housekeeping
We
things.
already discussed one.
Okay, I just want you to be impressed that I actually read this.
Right. Okay. And I'm trying to think, there was there's anything else. Oh, and just in general, the GASB 68, GASB 75, those requirements, if, you get the wrong person looking at our statements, it will look like we have a net deficit position, which is absolutely not true. Our real operational net position is fine. We're healthy at 9 million plus. And that is something you would find embedded in the financials, if anybody ever cared to look. So if anybody ever says to you, hey, we looked at your financials and you have a net position deficit of $23 million, you just need to tell them to come talk to me, Brian, or Chuck. Okay?
Okay.
We're in good shape. So I would recommend that we make a motion that we accept the independent audit report for the year ending June 30th, 2020.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Building committee report?
We have a meeting tomorrow at 1:30. We haven't had a meeting since the last.
District-wide safety plan amendment. Didn't we do this like
Yeah, what's in there?
Yes.
1 or 2 times?
The district-wide safety plan was submitted over the summer. It was put up for review for the month, as it's by statute has to be, and it was accepted. The state, along with many other things, because we're in the midst of a pandemic, changed what your district-wide safety plan requires, and they added about another 15 requirements to it. That plan was sent to everybody, and it has been on our website for the last month. It was sent to the board a month ago. That's why you feel like you've seen it multiple times, because the statute requires us to present it at the last board meeting, post it on our website. No one ever looks at it. This is done the same way in every district. And then after it's reviewed, after it can be reviewed and any questions can be asked by anybody, it needs to be adopted. We're at the adoption stage. The new changes were, we had to identify who essential workers were in case we were closed. We had to come up with communication systems if we weren't in school. So we contracted with Mitel so that our phones can be answered through our computers or our cell phones. If we're not in school, so that people can still communicate with us by calling our office lines and so on and so forth. They put together a bunch of guidelines, a bunch of requirements that were never part of a safety plan in New York State before. They've been added, they're all on there, we're at the point where it can be approved now.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
So
I
it
forgot about the
feels
time-
like you've seen it a lot,
timelines. Yeah,
because you have.
Okay.
You've seen it a lot.
Is there a motion to adopt the amendment to the district-wide safety plan? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Policy committee report, this is the second read for, Scott's not here, so I'll take this, about information and data privacy, security, breach and notification. The first read was last month. If the board members don't have any further questions, I would recommend somebody to make a motion, because I don't know that I can, to adopt this policy. Or revision. Brian? Second?
Second.
Judy? All in favor? Aye. Anybody got any new business? No? Down that way. That brings us to our second hearing of visitors. At this time, we will listen to anything you want to talk about, as long as it has to do with, I guess, school. Or not, it really doesn't matter. Does anybody care to address the board? Just come on up and state your name and where are you from? Please.
Benjamin Ward from Southold. I'm a senior here. I was reviewing, I was reviewing the state guidance regarding microclusters, and if we enter a yellow stage, which is above 3% for 1 week, it said for schools the option was either close or test 20% of the students weekly. Are we planning on testing 20%? If so, how, or would we just shut down?
So,
question.
yeah, it's a good question. So, we are in the process of putting together a plan to ask 20% of our community to volunteer to be tested. The state has indicated that they will provide us with tests. We are now looking at local groups like hospitals, EMTs, nurses, doctors that live in the community, to try to figure out how, it's not easy to test 20% of the districts in Suffolk. If you go into, there's 2 or 3 that are right now pre-yellow. We happen to not be one of them. But I've spoken with the superintendents in both of them. So they're starting testing in some districts tomorrow. Hampton Bays will actually be testing to proactively try to not get on the orange and the red, because it's quite honestly hard to become yellow. The yellow is between 3.5% and 4%, whereas 4% is orange and you're put out of school. So it's probably more likely that if you have a spike, you'll be out without any choice of testing. But the answer to your question, Ben, is we're looking to try to put a process in place to where we can test. And then, we will look to see who's willing to test, and then put together, the parameters for how we can get volunteers for that. It's a tough call. I'm not inclined to force people to do something with their body that they're not interested in doing. So some of it we have control over, some of it we don't. Our plan's going to be that we're going to try to test 20%. I can't guarantee you that 20% of the people will be willing to test. So, okay.
I don't know.
What are we, like, about 17?
20% for us is about 179 people.
A week.
Every 2 weeks. That includes students and staff.
So 20% is 179
It's
people
approximately
every-
179.
And they say every 2 weeks?
Every 2 weeks, but they've changed the guidelines. They sent us new ones Sunday. My wife can tell you because I was reading them at home.
No, again this Sunday.
The new guidelines.
When we would get it, probably changed.
Yeah, what happens with the new guidelines is if you stay in the yellow zone and you tested 20% and your 20% is lower than what the yellow zone indicator is. So let's say you're 3.8%, that's what puts you yellow. And you test your school community and you're at 1%, then you may not have to test the next 2 weeks. They're not going to require you to continue to test.
Okay.
This is a very positive, the comments coming out of Albany and the comments coming from the Department of Health and Dr. Pidgeot from Suffolk County, the Commissioner of Health in Suffolk County, have been very positive along the lines of the fact that they understand that the parameters that schools have put in place have kept things from spreading in school. Even the way we report now is different. It's less cumbersome and less intensive than it used to be because they're finding that the rules and the regulations and the fact that our kids are willing to follow them and working with us and our families are working with us, the spread in school. We've had a lot of kids come into different schools and that has caused them to have to close. But what they've found is it hasn't spread in any of them. So they're very positive about that in the last week or two. They've made indications that they understand that. So I think they're trying to do what they can to keep schools open, as are all of us.
I think that's the thing, the one thing everybody agrees on is nobody wants to close
Yes.
schools.
Yeah.
I think we're all on the same page. Some things are out of our control. And Ben, although Dr. Morrow answered your question, it could change tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the governor could at any time say, all schools are closed like happened in March. And those are things that are not at a local level control. And I think we all kind of have to just keep that in our minds, regardless of what individually we all want. Eric?
Erin Callan. So while I'm not going to publicly admit that I think that's a good choice to not go full-time right now, I don't want my child to know that. I agree. I think it's not a good time. The red cohort, every time we have a Monday or a Wednesday holiday, it is not their Friday to go to school. So they have had 4 weeks where they've had 1 day of school. And I have to say, if we're going to continue this, can we do something about that? Because it's really...
And I'm sure it was just something nobody thought of.
Yeah, I think it's coincidental, obviously. I don't think anybody's trying to keep the red cohort out.
I think what they did
Well, on the
is
Monday holidays, there's a lot of Monday
There's a
holidays.
lot, and it just worked out that it was never their Friday. So, and then we had Wednesday with Veterans Day.
Right.
If for the foreseeable future we're staying hybrid, could the board consider switching the Friday? So if we have a Monday holiday, maybe not switching them, but if we have a Monday holiday, or in some way letting the red cohort have that Friday.
I can speak for the board, that's not a board decision, that's an
Okay,
administrative
all
decision.
right.
That's up to Dr. Morrow and his administrators.
I'll sit down with Mr. Rush and we'll take a look
Okay.
at the calendar. I know
I
that,
think it's a great point, though.
I know at the beginning they counted how many days of school it would be
Mm-hmm.
for everybody. And it was very close, it was within 1 or 2. But if it looks like it's not, if it looks like it's really heavy on one end of the year or the other, and we'll take a look at it.
I think the issue more is, and listening to a lot of teenagers talk about it from the red cohort, I think it's more that it always works out to be that they don't have that Friday.
That Friday.
So 2 days, okay, great, 2 days, but then when it's one day,
It happens on the week when they're.
yeah,
not
so it
on
keeps happening that's what's unintentional, obviously,
Yeah.
but I think if we don't know when this is gonna end, I mean, hopefully by the spring, we are full-time and it's not an issue. But I'm just thinking going forward, I think mentally it's taking a pretty big toll on half the school.
Could I ask you one of the things that we tried to do, and Mr. Rush worked diligently, was to try to create something that was plannable around. So if you were a working parent, like some districts it was, you're in, you're out, you're in, you're out, you're in, you're out. So you might be in Monday, Wednesday one week, and you might be in Tuesday, Thursday, and you might be in Wednesday, Friday, and we believed that would be very unmanageable for a working parent, for many working parents. Do you think that if we were flip-flopping Fridays per se, do you think that would cause hardships for people, or do you think it would be better for them?
I don't think so, because it's just our high school kids. So many of them are home alone anyway, and they know when they're going to school. This year, if it was last year, everyone took it for granted, but they want to go to school. Even the kids who don't like school want to go to school. So I don't think it would be an issue of, oh, they forgot they had school, or, obviously they need reminders, they are teenagers, but I don't think it would be,
You don't
because
think
I
it'd be a
really
hardship?
think the parents that work are going to work, and the parents that are home are home. So,
So we'll I'll speak to the high school tomorrow, we'll take a look at it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, you bet. Thank you.
Does anybody else care to address the board at this time? Thank you for your input. Like I said, we're all on the same page. No one else cares to address the board at this time. I will defer to Mr. Massana down there at the end.
Hi, so on behalf of the student body, I just wanted to ask a question about something you said prior, Dr. Morrow. You said that we'd work on when this plan, there is a plan to go back fully and bringing furniture back in. Is the plan down to where that there's room to put full-time students 6 feet apart in the classroom with the current desk setup we have and stuff like that? Is there ample room for that? Is that part of the plan that's already been?
No, there's a plan to put students 6 feet apart where we don't have barriers, and then the utilization of barriers where we have less than 6 feet, because the parameters set forth in the guidance from the state is 6 feet or barriers. Now, we would prefer 6 feet everywhere, but when you look at our classrooms, like for instance, the science labs, there's 6 feet side to side, but they're probably, if we added in another row of desks, because they have about 18s in there, that would bring them up to like 22, 24. You'd probably be at 5 feet front to back, or 4 feet front to back, but you'd have a barrier in front of you, you'd have a barrier behind you, and you'd be sitting at a desk. On the sides, we'd be 6 feet apart, because what we have found is that kids don't live inside that barrier. It's definitely in front of them and behind them, but it's not really next to them. So we're trying to do, the way we're measuring it out and the way we're figuring it now is the rows will be 6 feet apart, because we do believe we need that space to keep it safe for everybody. But forward and backward would be less than that. Okay.
Yeah, and that was just my one question. But besides that, what's been going on in the school? We had our senior luncheon, and that went really well. To see both cohorts together, it was nice. I'm sure everybody had a great time. And it's the little things like that like, I know a lot of,
that day, right?
yeah, perfect. And it's just little things like that. Me and the fellow council members, we decorated the front of the school for Halloween. And I think it's little things like that the kids are noticing a lot more, being that they were taken away from us. And things that you take for granted last year, you're really, really noticing this year, which I think is a big positive that's come out of all this. But I think, we're 2 months in now, and I think that middle of the year drag that usually hits the student body anyway is hitting twice as hard this year. And I just think we need to, me and my colleagues on the board, or on the council, need to continue working our hardest to get those little things to kind of keep the students going and keep morale up. But I know Mr. Rush, he's been really trying to work hard with us, and he's definitely listened to everything we've had to say, and then he brings it up the pipeline, of course, and that decision gets made. But I really I think all the students appreciate being listened to a little bit this year, and like, for example, the mental health survey that Mrs. Santiago and Mr. Barrick had us take, I think like something like that, just to know like they care a little bit, it definitely didn't go unappreciated. So thank you guys for that. That's it.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. John?
Not much to say really, just still excited that we haven't had to shut down since our start. That's really says a lot about people doing the right thing, the staff, the students, community. And it was nice to hear that our financials are in a good place, and that's because our taxpayers have supported this school for many years through good times and bad. Can't forget that we have a beautiful campus here, and that's I think I appreciate it, even though my kids are gone. It's wonderful to see, and people using it, the track, the tennis courts. That's.
Thank you. Brian? Judy?
Nothing other than to wish everybody a happy, healthy Thanksgiving.
We have, students are doing a play now, right? A straight play?
In both schools.
And that's going to be virtual soon? It's going to be, you're going to be able to view it, correct, at some
Yeah,
point?
they're taping it. They were taping it when I walked around after school yesterday. They were actually in here taping. They've broken it down into cohorts, so they have 6 or 7 people. And I saw them. They had the stage crew out, and they were separated on it, acting. And then what the elementary did is they actually purchased a play that is a bunch of singletons that all get taped and then put together into one long online performance. They're actually bringing the kids in a couple at a time so they can tape with each other 2 or 3 at a time instead of one to tape with a couple of adults. But yes, both of them are being worked on. I don't know the exact date, but I can put it in the memo.
I think it's great, just
Yeah.
that the community knows that we're doing as much as, or you guys are really doing as much as you can for the students, because if we're not here for the students, we have no business being here at all. I want to just thank Mrs. Imbriano and the freshman class, I think I got it right, for the flags once again on the front lawn. I hear from community members all the time how amazing it is, and I happened to go by when the students were putting them out this year, and you just have to stop and get a tear in your eye. It's just an amazing thing, and especially this year, I think. So kudos and thanks to them, and I know it's a good fundraiser. Again, the things we're doing in spite of the pandemic, because the grown-ups in the room really do care, and I think this year the students realize how much the grown-ups really do care, and they do listen. So I think it's important to have as much of that normalcy go on. I know that there's outside every day, well, till the weather got iffy, kind of thing to keep these students busy and occupied and as normal as possible. I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Remember, no more than 10 people in your homes. That's not the rule from this Board of Education. Just saying, wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving and to stay safe, and let's just keep doing what we're doing. We'd be remiss if we didn't, once again, I think we should do it almost every month, is to really thank our custodial staff from the bottom to the top. And maybe the students could do that as well if they see them, because these people, these men and women are working literally around the clock to keep your children and all of the kids and the staff as safe as they possibly can under these circumstances. And I don't even know how to begin to thank them all. but they're doing an amazing job. And I think that's why, like John said, we haven't not had a problem. Thank you all for coming. Please come back in December, whenever the meeting is. I'm thinking it's the third Wednesday of December. I don't know the date. And hopefully we'll still be in school. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
All in favor?